Hello everyone, welcome back to my lesson. Today's guide, we are actually focusing on grade 10 revision. So now I'll be explaining grade 10 mathematics June 2024, but I will focus on algebra. So I'll be revising algebra. So guys, please make sure that you have your pen and paper. Without waste of time, let's go through our question paper. There's instructions, instruction number 7. They're saying, if necessary, round off your answers to two decimal places. I believe in our previous video, I've explained that in order for you to know whether you have to round off into two decimal places or three decimal places, obviously they will instruct you. So this is the part where they instruct you, the instructions, where they instruct you how to round off, right? So which means for this question paper, we have to round off to two decimal places. Every answer that you get, you must make sure that you round off to two decimal places. Okay, let's move to the question. So guys, I will be focusing on algebra, only algebra, and I will select questions, right? For an example, I will start with this question here, 1.1.2. This question is actually interesting, guys. It's really, really, really interesting. So how do we go about answering this question? So they gave us 3x squared minus 12x. X squared minus 7x plus 12 plus 1 over 3 minus x. 1.1.2. So I saw that when it comes to fractions, most of the learners are struggling. So hence I've decided to start with fractions, basically. So now, how do we go about simplifying this question? So for this part here, which is our numerator, there's a common factor. There's a common factor there of 3x. So when we take out 3x there, you'll be left with x, and then for this part here, sorry. So for this part here, you'll be left with minus 4, right? All divided by, this is a trinomial, we can always factorize this part here. So you have your x and x. We're looking for factors of 12. When you add them, we get minus 7. So that's 3 and 4. Positive sign, which means you must have the same signs, right? And then for this part here, which is 1 over 3 minus x, we can take out the common factor of negative, right? So let's say, for an example, you have maybe x minus 1. When we take out the common factor of negative 1 there, you'll end up with 1 minus x. So that when you multiply this back, you get your x minus 1, right? So same applies to that fraction. So you take out the common factor of negative 1. Now you're left with what? X minus 3. So that when you multiply it back, you will get 3 minus x. And then as from here, you can now cancel. Cancel, now you're left with 3 minus 3. Okay, let's just say 3 And then here we have x minus 3 there, minus 1 over x minus 3. Again, we have our LCD here, which is x minus 3, right? So our LCD, we have your x minus 3 over 1. So you write your LCD there, which is x minus 3. And then now x minus 3 and x minus 3 will cancel. You'll be left with 3x. And then again, even for this part, 1 over x minus 3, x minus 3 and x minus 3 will cancel, and you'll be left with minus 1. So this is your final answer. And then you got your final answer. Perfect. And then let's move to the next question. Let's move to the next question. Mm, I'm only selecting interesting question, guys. Interesting questions, ne? So now I'm taking 1.2.1. So you have 3x cubed minus x squared minus 6x plus 2. They're saying factorize fully. So we have to factorize. When you factorize, you must end up with two brackets, right? You can factorize by taking out the common factor. You can factorize by opening two brackets and look for factors. So this is just factorization. So for this situation, how do we factorize? We have to take out the common factor. So we have the common factor of x squared there. And you'll be left with 3x minus 1, right? And then for this part here, we take out the common factor of minus 2, and you'll be left with 3x minus 1, right? We'll be left with 3x minus 1. And then as from here, now we've created our own common factor, which is 3x minus 1. Now let's take out that common factor, 3x minus 1. So when you take out the common factor of 3x minus 1 here, you're left with x squared. So you write your x squared, 3x minus 1, now you're left with minus 2. So this is your final answer. Now I'm having two brackets. Done factorizing. Now let's move to 1.2.2. 1.2.2, we still have to factorize, right? But what is this? This is just what? Difference of two cubes. How do you factorize the difference of two cubes? So open two brackets, and then you first look for the cube root of the first term. Cube root of x cubed, that's x. And then the cube root of negative 64, that's negative 4, right? So now, how can we create x cubed if we've already having x? We need x squared, right? And then how can we create 64 if you have minus 4? So you need your positive 16. And then how do we get the middle term? You multiply these two terms, and then you change the sign. X times negative 4, that's minus 4x, right? Now change the sign, you'll end up having positive 4x. So this will be positive 4x, and then done factorizing. That's how you factorize a difference of two cubes. And then we continue. Now I will take this one, 2.1.2. We're solving for x. So for 2.1.2, now we are given 4 times 25, x plus 3 equals to 4. Again, okay, for this situation, we are given an exponential equation. How do you solve for x when it comes to exponential equations? you have to get your bases to be the same and then you drop down the exponents. How can we do that for this problem? So you can just divide both sides by 4 so that we can isolate base 25. So you'll be left with base 25 and then exponent x plus 3, which is equals to 4 divided by 4, that's 1, right? But then now, how can we get these bases to be the same? We have your 25 x plus 3 equals to, this one can be expressed as 25 to the power 0. Any number raised to the exponent 0 is equals to 1. Now you have same basis, 25, 25. You drop down the exponents. So you have your x plus 3 equals to 0, and then you transpose your 3. Now it becomes negative 3. And then we got the value of x. Now we've managed to solve for x. And then let's move to 2.1.3. 2.1.3. So guys, I'm only selecting interesting questions. I'm only selecting interesting questions. B is equals to A to X. We're solving for X, and then we're giving something like this. We're given B is equals to A root 2X. This is just a literal equation. So now you have to isolate X. You must have your X maybe on your left hand side or your right hand side, and then everything on the other side. So what's the first step here? A is attached to root 2x, so which means we have to isolate x. So we divide both sides by a. Now we have your b over a is equals to root 2x, right? And then from here, you square both sides. You square both sides. And then after squaring both sides, you'll end up having your b squared over a squared, which is equals to 2x. So we're having a square root. How do you get rid of the square root? You square both sides. So now after squaring, we still need to isolate x. So you divide both sides by 2. And then now your x is equals to your b squared, right? Divided, it's b squared divided by 2a squared. And then, yeah, that's our answer. That's our answer, right? But some of the learners will say, but now how did we get to b squared over 2a squared? So it's simple. You have your b squared there over a squared now divided by 2. And then now we have a b squared over a squared multiplied by 1 over 2. And then you multiply these two. B squared times 1, that's b squared. And then a squared times 2, that's 2a squared. Perfect. And then now after this one, I think we have to move to the inequality part. The inequality part. Yeah, we have to move to the inequality part. So for inequality, they gave us 2x minus 1 over 3 is greater or equal to 2x plus 1. We must solve for x inequality. Okay, we're solving for x in the inequality. So now you have your 2x minus 1 over 3 greater or equals to 2x plus 1. So when it comes to inequalities, guys, the only thing that you need to do, you have to treat this as an equal sign. What happens if maybe this was an inequality, this was equals to, what would you do? Obviously, you have to multiply both sides by 3, and then you start transposing, and then you isolate x, right? So we apply the same thing again. Even when it comes to inequalities, we apply the same thing. So we will have to do what? We'll have to multiply both sides by 3. So you multiply both sides by 3. You multiply by 3. The reason now I'm introducing bracket because we have values more than 1. So now we have a 2x minus 1 there, which is greater or equals to, now use the distribution law, right? So 3 times 2x, that's 6x, and then 3 times 1, that's positive 3, right? And then from here, we can now put everything in standard form. So let's transpose 6x. So you'll have your 2x minus 6, collecting the like terms, né? Then greater or equals to 3 plus 1 transpose, right? Now this is minus 4x greater or equals to 4. Now let us divide both sides by -4 because we have to get rid of that -4 in front of x. So your x now is lesser or equals to -1. So when you divide or multiply by a negative value, then the inequality sign changes. So now we found the value of x using inequalities, né? And then now 2.2.2. They're saying represent the solution in question 2.2.1 on a number line, right? So now how do we do that? Through a number line, critical value, that's -1. So is it included? Yes, it is included because there's equals to that. So which means you shade. Where is our inequality sign pointing? It's pointing left, which means this will also point left. So now we've represented our solution in a number line. Let's move to the next question. Now they're saying solve for x and y simultaneously. So now you're solving for x and y. This is simultaneous. Okay, that's not a problem. That's not a problem. Remember, guys, I've got your back. You'll never struggle when I'm around. So now you have your x plus 4y equals to 14 and 3x plus 2y equals to 12. I feel like this is an easier equation, right? I feel like we can use this and change it to equation 3. So from equation 1, which is x plus 4y equals to 14, let's transpose 4y. So now you have your 14 minus 4y. So this is equation 3. The only thing that I did was to transpose 4y from left-hand side to the right-hand side. And then I ended up having x is equals to 14 minus 4y. That was the first step, right? And then as from there, now we have to substitute equation 3 into equation, let's label this as equation 2, and then this one is equation 1. So into equation 2. So what is our equation 2? We have your 3x plus 2y equals to 12. Now, in place of x, we substitute 14 minus 4y. Then we have it plus 2y equals to 12. Okay, cool. And then, okay, let me try and create some space first. Let me create some space first so that, yeah, now let's continue. So from here, what do we do? You distribute, meaning you multiply by the number in front of the bracket. So 3 times 14, that's 42. And then 3 times minus 4y, that's minus 12y. And then plus 2y equals to 12. And then from here, we have like terms. Minus 12y plus 2, that's minus 10y. And then equals to, let's try and transpose this positive 42 to the left-hand side. What are we going to get? 12 minus 42, that's minus 30. So you'll end up with minus 30, né? And then divide both sides by minus 10 and minus 10. So your y is equals to 3. And then now substitute your y on equation number 3. What is our equation 3? That's x is equals to 14 minus 4y. Okay, that's 14 minus 4. What is our y? 3. So 14 minus 12, that's 2. So your x is 2. And then we've solved for x and y. Then that's it. Now let's move to the next question. Simplify. So we are simplifying. And then we are given 12 to the power x times 3 to the power minus x. How do we simplify this? So these two questions, they're based on exponents. So now we have to apply the laws of exponents. But now let's change this 12 into prime factors. So this 12 can be expressed as 2 to the power squared times 3. And then 4, that's just 2 squared x, right? And then from here, let's try and distribute exponent x. So you'll end up with 2 to the power 2x, 3 to the power x times 3 to the power negative x there, all divided by what? All divided by 2, but 2 times 2x, right? And then from here, we can apply law number 1. Law number 1. You're multiplying the same basis. What do you do when it comes to exponents? You subtract you add the exponents, né? So x minus x, that's 0. So you'll end up with 2 to the power 2x, and then 3 to the power 0, because x minus x, right? And then divided by 2 times 2 to the power 2x. Again, these 2 will cancel, right? And then now you're left with 3 to the power 0, that's 1. And then 2. So your final answer is 1 over 2. And then let's move to the next question, which is um 4 to the power x plus 3, right? So this is the question. So what is the first step there? Now the first step, you also break the numbers, ne? Into prime factors. So that's 2, and then there's x there, sorry, x plus, and then there's 3 times, let's try and separate the exponent. Let's separate the exponents. So we use law number 1 by separating the exponents, right? And then from there, you have your 7 times, let's separate here. So that's 2x, and then 2 to the power 1, right? And then from here, you distribute. You remove the brackets, right? So that's 2 to the power 2x plus 3. So basically here we're trying to create our own common factor. Let's create our own common factor. And then from here now we have your 7 times 2 to the power 2x. That's 1. So now this is the common factor, right? Let's take out the common factor now of 2 to the power 2x from our numerator. We'll be left with 1 plus this 3 and 2. 3 times 2, that's 6, right? And then here you have your 2 to the power 2x. But now 7 times 2, that's 14. We cancel these two. Now you left with your 7. 1 plus 6 is 7 over 14. 7 over 14 is equals to 1 over 2. And now we've answered our question. We've managed to simplify this exponential expression. So guys, thank you for watching my video, and I believe that it helped you so much, guys. This was just a revision for algebra, grade 10 algebra. But even the grade 11s, they can always go back and try to remind themselves. So thank you so much, guys. Don't forget, guys, to subscribe, like, comment, and hit the notification button so that you can get notified. Thank you so much, family. Bye.